Can you see that? No. Good. That is funny. Keep your chin up because when you look down, you have to. That is hilarious. I love it. I do. I love a comment, so it doesn't matter how it may, what the intention is, but I love that. Keep it up. I always love my high frequency, and I turn it up a little higher every time because I wasn't using it for a while. So my skin has to get back to getting used to it. So you ground it by putting your finger on the wand before it touches your skin, and then you let go. I do this right after I put on my serums and my toner because apparently it will help with the absorption. I actually have it on my TikTok shop. Let me pin that. So with the high frequency, I do always bring it down to my neck, chest area. You turn it on really high and you haven't really used it, sometimes there's almost not a stinging, but you feel something. It doesn't hurt though. And before you take it off your face, I like to go really around my eyes. You have to ground it, which is what I will do. So grounding, you do this, and then you take it off. And then I turn it off. And that is it. I usually use it every day or at least 4 times a week. After toner, after serum, before moisturizer, because your face has to be dry. And because I put seemingly a lot of layers on, this is why I like the Prequel half and half, because it's really light. So I put on the Prequel half and half. Then I put on sunscreen, but it's really light. And again, facial massage. So after my high frequency and my Prequel, I always do a light facial massage because I'm not going to do too much makeup today. On average, I prefer my skin to be so banging that really all you need is some brow gel, a mascara, and a gloss. You don't even need a foundation. Never need any of that, but will need a nice sunscreen. So that's what I will do. Now I put sunscreen on even before I put on my primer. I am religious about my sunscreen. Now, sunscreen, everything has been done. I will use my primer. We'll go in order and use my primer when I find it. So I had made that content about London opening for a certain company, and I was based in London. I transferred to London a little over or under a year and a half into flying. And I had said, if you put your name on the transfer list, do not think it's not going to go through because of your seniority. Do not think it's not going to go through because you're number 2,000 on the transfer list or 1,000 or 500. Forget all of that because it's through. And it will go through because most people, right when they get on the line, they'll put their transfers in as soon as they start flying. So you're on reserve, you put your transfer in, and then they forget about it. So years may have gone by, and more senior flight attendants will completely forget that they put their transfer in. The thing is, once it starts going through, a majority of people do not take their transfer. A majority of people, not only do they not take their transfer, they forget that their transfer is even in. So I like this balm underneath my eye. So because of that, when the transfers open to any base, but specifically to international bases, then that's when flight attendants who have put their transfer in, that's when they remember. Oh, shoot, I put my transfer in. Transfers have gone through, or I got granted my transfer and I want it or I don't want it. Now, what I've seen is most people don't want it. Most people, it's called dream bidding. It's just like when you're a new flight attendant and they tell you to dream bid all of the lines, even though you can't even hold the line. Bid all of the international lines you want to hold, but your seniority can't. Dream bidding is wonderful. I always dream bid because eventually that dream bid will become true. However, dream bidding with transfers does happen. It does happen within anyone's career. If you choose to stay at the company, typically 5 years or more? Well, even less than that, because transfers opened up a year and a half into me flying. I always say go. And I say go when you get those transfers, because when you stop and think, and should I go, and is it not the right time? All of that thinking will prevent you from going. If you don't have another flight attendant to transfer with, go. If you are, here's the thing. If you are young and single, and regardless of age, but it's a little bit easier if you don't have all of those restraints. If you don't have a restraint of, I have a mortgage, I have a family, I have a dog. A lot of flight attendants don't have animals, but if you do, you can still get around that. There's so many ways to make it work. But I say go, especially if you get an international transfer, because it is very rare to have the opportunity to be able to be based internationally, especially if you are American. It is a rare opportunity to be able to relocate and already have the job there for you. Furthermore, with my company, they did a lot of the hard work as far as the visa process. Now, when I transferred to London, LHR, again, it was 2008. So this was quite a while ago. And I share that because at that time, there was no such thing as what started during COVID, and people were working from home, but a digital nomad visa. All of those things weren't really a thing. Now that they are a thing, it is a little bit easier to relocate. And I had made a piece of content. If you go travel somewhere for 3 weeks, that's not relocation. Stop saying it's relocation. To relocate means you are uprooting your life from one space to another. That means you are opening a bank account in that country. That means you're going to the hospitals, or in the UK, you're going to the GP in that country, which means you've registered with the NHS, the National Health System, which means you are not commuting. I think there may be a no commuting policy, especially from the US, but there were commuters within Europe. When I was based in London, there was a lot of France commuters from parts of Germany, throughout Europe, but I, at that time, did not commute. If you're choosing to transfer, and this is for one company, your visa is typically for a certain amount of time. Now, there was a time where the company would just sponsor you so you could stay indefinitely. At that time, the company was not sponsoring flight attendants to stay indefinitely. You had a visa that could be extended to 4 years. So you had a 4-year visa. I made the point, and I made the goal to stay that entire 4 years. I'll be honest with you, A lot of people didn't. A lot of people got their transferred to London, and might have made it 6 months, because after 6 months you can transfer back. There's so many things that are different, but it was always my goal to live abroad, live full time, and immerse myself in, at the time it was the UK. So the company really helps out as far as all of the paperwork and the things that you need to relocate and be based abroad, which is helpful, because if you've ever done this, or if you've ever tried to get a visa to move abroad, or working visa, it can be messy. Just go, you take your badge, you take your passport, you take your biometrics to, at this time it would have been the UK embassy, and it's the same day, because the company will give you a letter, and as long as you come with all the right things, they will actually issue it either that day or maybe within 24 hours, 72 hours, something like this. So I was really excited, and I had shared that it went by so quick. I had actually taken thank you for the follow, Annette. I had taken my transfer out twice, because when I started, I was like, transfer number 1728, and then they'll put 100 through, 7 will take it. They'll put another 150 through, 12 will take it. And if they need to fill that 300 flight attendant quota, they will just keep putting transfers through every week until the quota is finished. Most of the time they just have to clear the entire list, because so many people say no. They say no because it's the right time. They change their mind. They have attachments to where they are now. I didn't have any attachments. I was ready to go. I had shared my first base. I'm going to do a little color correcting with this blush. My first base was DC, which was fine. I enjoyed DC. I enjoyed the flying out of DC, but I wanted more of a city-like experience, and to me, DC wasn't that city. It is a city, but it's not a city like London. It's not a city like Paris. It's not a city like Berlin. It's not a city like New York. DC is city light. So my transfer went through, and it was all my belief, because when I was a kid, I knew I was going to live in London. I knew I was going to live in Paris. I knew I was going to live in these cities. I did not know how, but I knew I was going to. And finding a place is probably, again, a lot easier now. I never look at something as easy or hard, because when my transfer went through for London, and again, I was a year and a half into flying, I was still on reserve in DC. I had looked at Gumtree, which is similar to what Craigslist is, but it's for the UK. And there was a lot of scams. Send me 500 pounds and I will hold this beautiful flat. There was a lot of scams. So I just assumed I would find a place. I had flown a few London trips, but because I was on reserve, it wasn't like I could pick up a trip to go look at places. But I knew some of the areas that I wanted to live, but I was really just open. This is going to work. I don't know how, but this is going to work. And how it worked was, my boyfriend at the time had this tea company, and his cousin lived in London, and we would hang out sometimes on layovers. And she called him and said, "Hey, I know Hope is transferring to London. I am moving out of my flat the day that she has orientation. So just tell her to come to the flat. You can move into my room. We'll figure out prices." That's how it happened for me. I didn't even have to look for a place. I had a place waiting. It was a room in East London, right across from the train, but it was the overground. So I would take a train 2 stops to the tube, and then from the tube I would catch the central line. I would take the central line to Holborn, and from Holborn transfer to the Piccadilly line, which takes you directly to the airport. And we figured out a price, and I was just so excited because I was there. I was so excited because when you start flying, it changes your life. But for me, it allowed me to see how much you can create in your life. The fact that within a few hours, less than a day, you could be in a completely different country, whereas your friends are maybe speaking about the news cycle in their country. You're aware of news cycles in several different countries. And that also helps because, what's up, T? Look at you. What's up? So I moved in, and I had shared this on my live yesterday. Understand that. Thank you for the daily heartbeat. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for always showing up when you come to my lives. Understand and give yourself grace and time, because it will take time to adjust. It takes time to adjust to the job. Just getting in, what, to your home, or you just came into the live? It will take time to adjust. And a lot of people, thank you for the gifts, T. A lot of people didn't give themselves enough time. It took me time to adjust. And it took me time because everything was new. And I was being the pioneer. Who else could help me? Who else could say, oh, I remember when I first started flying and then transferred internationally. There was no, just getting home. Oh, good. Listen, you had a good time out. No, when you're the pioneer, and I'm going to be talking about this on my other page, T, tonight. When you're the pioneer, understand that you are laying the blueprint for others, but for yourself. Oh, cool. That's great. I'm glad you found that. And that's a thing. When I was based in London, our visa only allowed us to be employed by the airline. So you could not physically go out and have any other employment. But if you found something under the table, then that's what you did. And a lot of us did. It showed people how to be resourceful. When I transferred to London, the pound was over $2. So £1 was equal to $2.08. Also, being based in London, you had to have a UK bank account. And again, the company gives you everything that you need. They give you a letter. You typically have your flat, so you may have something in your name that you take to the bank. This is what I'm talking about as far as relocation. Traveling for 3 weeks through a place is not relocation. Relocation is when you have to have a bank account and go through what that is. And I think it was simple, because again, it was such a long time ago. It was just, why do I have to make an appointment for this? Because I remember I had to make an appointment, and I didn't understand why I had to make an appointment when I was there with all of the forms at that time. So this is how I always groom my brows, with edge wax. So yes, transferring all your paperwork, specifically for the UK. Once you have your national insurance number, everything opens up. So your national insurance number is similar to your social security number here in the US. And with that, you can register at your GP, which would be your, thank you for liking the live, T, which would be your doctor. You can open your bank account. What else? You can do everything that you would do with your social security number, with your national insurance number. But when I was talking about allow yourself to adjust, there is an adjustment. It is fun. It was like, wow, I've done this. At the time, I was 24 when I transferred to London. A friend of mine transferred with me. She went on medical leave within 6 months. She injured her back. But I had a built-in system because where I was living, I had two other flatmates that were not airline. One was a very well-known hairstylist who I was her hair model, and she really helped me out in that way because she would do my hair for free every week or monthly. It was great. All my cut and colors were done by her. And my other flatmate, he worked on like equivalent of Wall Street of the UK, which was Liverpool Street, the city. So he had finished, one of my flatmates had finished university in Germany and was coming to work in the UK in finance. And my other flatmate had been in the UK for 7 years at that time. Originally, well, she was from everywhere. She had lived throughout Europe and certain African countries. However, they were kind of a stepping stone for me. But I've never had any issue or problems meeting people, making friends, recreating a life whenever I have moved anywhere. And with my company, I transferred bases, not often, but I did transfer I went around the system. The only places I didn't go, well, that's a whole nother story. Let's talk about London. So what else? The departure tax out of the UK. So the UK has a high departure tax. Everywhere has a departure tax. France has a departure tax. Greece, every country, including the US, has taxes just to leave. Now, these taxes go towards fixing the airport or whatever they are. However, the UK departure tax at the time, I don't know, it may have been $160. It was around that. I think it was $160. So every time you went to pass travel outside of the UK back to the US on your company's flight, the flight would have been complimentary, but just your departure fee was $160. So this is why many people do not commute, but this is also why a lot of people complain, because just to leave the country, it was going to cost you $160. Now, to get around that, many people would like pick up or hope to catch deadhead segments. So a flight that you would work out, but deadhead back, and they would deviate from their deadhead. So they basically worked out of the UK to get away from the departure tax. Also, if you're based in the UK, now I don't know if that's now, but at the time, and I'm pretty sure you still have it, you receive, I think, 2 to 4, I think it was 3 to 4 departure-free segments. So you actually have segments where your departure fee is waived. So if you needed to pass travel outside of the UK to do your driver's license in your home state, or if a family member passed, or some circumstance that is somewhat normal, you had to go renew your passport, you had segments where your departure tax was waived. And we always loved those. Now, none of this applies if you're just flying within other European countries. The other thing was, when I say it was an adjustment, it was a huge adjustment adjusting to London. It's always an adjustment adjusting anywhere, but I'm living and working there full time, recreating myself, meeting people. Weather is bad. It takes a part of yourself understanding that it is very new and to allow yourself the time to adjust. Don't just leave. Some people would say, this is just too much. I'm sad. I don't know anyone. It's unfamiliar. I'm going to transfer back. Give yourself grace. Give yourself time to adjust, because I had felt that Because the weather is terrible. The weather is terrible in London. I love London. London will always have a space in my heart because I spent a lot of time there, just under 10 years in Europe as a whole. But if you are used to sun, ain't no sun. Be aware, no sun. Because of that, I learned to actually travel throughout Europe. I would travel to warmer destinations, whether it was the south of France, the south of Italy, West Africa, Eastern Europe. You can use your company benefits, but buying, they call it a day break. So a city break would be you can just buy a fare from London to Belfast or London to any other European destination inexpensively. Ryanair, EasyJet. Once we even bought one of those fares for £1 or £4 round trip. Now the taxes and everything were more, but I think it still came out to less than £20. We went to Bologna, Rimini, and some other place in Italy. So for me to get away from grossness of the weather and the lack of sun, I just traveled. And I did make friends. Hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on. I had to get a tissue. Give yourself grace. Give yourself time to adjust. Give yourself time to have fun. Because I was on reserve, being on reserve internationally is great. And here's why. It's great because there's less trips. Now, when I was based out of Heathrow, there was no inter-Europe flying. So we flew Heathrow, Chicago, Heathrow, Denver, Heathrow, San Francisco, and now Houston. Those are all 3-day trips. So if you're on a block of 5 days, and they don't use you the first day, but they use you for a 3-day trip, you're going to be released that last day. There is not going to be a standby. And that was great because all of the trips are 3-day trips. There was one very senior 2-day trip to DC where you leave early in the morning. And it was like a 6 a.m. check-in or 5:45, 6:15 a.m. check-in. You fly to DC, you lay over, and then you take off that next morning and land in London that evening at 7 or 8 at night. That was a senior trip because you get the same amount of hours in 2 days. And I share that because domestically, you have turns, you have 2-day trips, 3-day trips, 4-day trips. At times, you may have a 5 or 6 day international. You don't have that in London. So your block of 4 days or 5 days or 3 days, if you're not used, you're going to have the other days off. And because of that, I had more of a real life because I knew I'm going to be released these last 2 days and I'm going into a block of 3 days off. So I have 5 days off in a row. And I had a little bit more predictability for my schedule. So I would go to my dance classes or workout classes every Thursday. I knew I would be on the ground. And so being on reserve specifically in London is easier just because there's less trips, which means you are not going to be used if you have 2 days left or 1 day left. You could, because there was a 2-day trip, but often you wouldn't because it's a senior trip. On the flip side, when flying dies down, like right now, flying will start to pick back up because it's March, we're going into spring break, but January or February, you won't fly at all. You may fly one trip, you may not fly at all. You may not fly, release all of January, all of February, sometimes most of March, which is kind of great. And we all knew that during winter, you do not fly at all in London. You're released. That's the best time to pass travel because everything is open as far as seats on the plane. But if you're a new reserve and you want to work because you want that extra per diem or you want the additional flight time, you're not really going to get it. You will get it during summer. You will get it Any other time outside of, thank you, Goddess Jim, for the follow. Any other time outside of January and February, you're not going to fly. And that was sometimes depressing because that's when it's gloomy and cold and rainy and misty and that typical London weather, and you're just sitting around hoping to be used, but you won't be used. Thank you for the rose, Goddess Jim. So that could be hard or depressing, but you get used to it. Again, I was only a year and a half into flying when I transferred, and my transfer date was June 1st. So that following January would have started my 2 years. So I was really junior. These bases aren't that senior. I saw someone say, oh, those bases are super senior. They're not, they can't even be that senior because most seniority is in the North American bases. It's in the bases like Chicago, JFK, San Francisco, LAX, Houston. That's where you have those flight attendants that are really senior. London's not that senior. It's not that senior. And your seniority doesn't really do anything because there's very few trips. It's not like if you were based in JFK or San Francisco or LA where you have so many trips, both domestically and internationally. You have 6 trips, let's see, LAX, San Fran, Denver, Chicago, Newark, Houston. You have 6 trips. That's it. So even if you were this very senior person, what are you using your seniority for? Your favorite LAX trip? And I share that because, number one, seniority, forget about it. You'll have it at some point, but thank you, Goddess Jim. When you are first flying, the point is just to learn flying. And I would say this, during your entire flying career, it's not really helpful to chase the flying. It won't do anything for you. Now, when you have probably 25, 30 years in, go ahead. But I never chased flying. I was able always to manipulate my schedule. If you want, you can always manipulate your schedule to have what you want. Meaning, I didn't mind dropping my trips to pick up what I wanted. I didn't mind having my friends who were flight attendants that held the trips that I want, and they would slide me a trip or say, hey, someone's going to call out sick. You make it work for you. If you want to sit and complain about your lack of seniority, you will be miserable. Because seniority is just that. It's just the time that you entered the company. That's it. You can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do is enjoy your time and accrue your seniority. To complain and say, well, they should quit, they're not going to. Focus on how you can make flying the best for you. Because if you don't, you will find everything to complain about. You will complain about being on reserve. And I understand it is not always what you want to be called at sometimes midnight as a heads up because, or sometimes right before midnight to let you know, hey, you're going to be doing a 4:15 standby. It's just what it is. It's what it is until it's not. The beauty is you're doing it. The beauty is you're still showing up. Beauty is I made it. Because every day that you make it turns into every year that you make it. Every year turns into every 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. Well, not a 4:15, 5 a.m. You can have a early standby. Now, I'm talking about specifically being based in London. There is standby, but you don't get it often. You're usually called for standby maybe during the holidays, like Christmas time. But you're not really getting standby assignments. That's why I actually loved being based in London because reserve was so much easier. Standby as a flight attendant means that you are being called to stand by to see if someone doesn't show up, if someone is sick, if there's a irregular operation. So you will come to the airport to stand by. You go and sit for 3 hours. So, or I think you can stand by for up to 4 hours, but you're paid for 5. Because I know at least at the time, I believe it's still the same now, minimum flight credit is 5 hours. So it doesn't matter. With that company, you can fly a flight that was 20 minutes. You will get minimum flight credit, which would be 5 hours. Not all companies have that. Some companies are only paid in hard time, not soft time, meaning you're only paid hard time, the time that you fly, not soft time, the time that is what I said. Like you did a 20-minute flight, but you're going to get a minimum of 5 hours. What else did I love about being based in London? I loved it because, to be honest, the service is better. The expectancy of service is higher for most carriers outside of the US. Even how people show up. American flight attendants, and I'm not saying American the carrier, I'm talking about all of US carriers. US carriers are not known for being the most polished. In fact, they're known for being the opposite. They're known for not being as polished. So it does sharpen you, because I'm not even going to use foundation. I love concealer. I will put on a little bronzer, but a lot of times don't use foundation. And I love blush. I will skip around a lot because I love blush. And I mix a lot of my blushes. So let me put on a little blush now. Americans as a whole are not known for their fashion sense, but also as flight attendants, you will see there is a polishedness. If you've ever flown on Singapore Air or Thai Air or Emirates or Swiss Air, there's a polishedness with their flight crews that you do not see being based in the US. And that is a good thing, because that rubs off on you if you're based in the US. I will definitely say my sense of style and fashion just skyrocketed from living in Europe and just traveling, because Americans don't have style. Style is comfort. Style is put on something that stretches and is comfortable. What are you wearing that's so uncomfortable? What are you wearing? Barbed wire? What are you wearing? So I loved the reserve because there were less trips, and just you have less of a chance of being thrown around. You're going here. Actually, no, we changed your gate. You're going here. There's 6 trips. And while I was there was less trips because there was Houston and Denver came later. Thank you, Goddess Jim. I appreciate your compliments, and thank you for sending the gifts and liking the live. So being based abroad is a dream. If you choose to do it, know that it is going to change your lives in the most incredible ways. What am I going to do? Because I do a very light makeup routine. I do like to wear a lot of blush, though. I'm always heavy on the blush. It is incredible because, as I said, when you do something abroad as an American, most of the time it's study abroad, and that is a great way. I find, though, that it leaves people in this sheltered state where they don't really get out of the students that they are around. They're only around their other people who are studying abroad. They won't really try to fully immerse themselves in the other people that are just naturally living in that space. I found that being based in London, or being based abroad, period, was nice because outside of the job, I had to figure everything else out. I had to figure out housing. I had to figure out everything. And because of that, I found how easily I could do it. And I knew I could do it. I trusted myself to do it, but I immersed myself in the culture. I immersed myself in the space that I was living. I trusted myself to, as they say, solo travel, but really as a flight attendant, you're always solo traveling. So I don't even use that term solo traveling because that's what you're going to do anyway. It also will change your perspective because visiting a place is one thing. Going to France is one thing. Going to London is one thing. Living there is completely different because all of that, everything wears off. So I had shared that when you move somewhere, give yourself 3 years to completely integrate. Meaning the first year, it's new. The first year, everything is impressive. It's almost like you're in Disneyland because everything is so new. The second year, that newness wears off. And you probably have found your favorite coffee shop. You probably have a friend group. You may have a gym. You're aware of the seasons. You know how to get around. You may have a favorite restaurant. You may have found someone to date. There's all of these things that happen by the second year. By the third year, you can quickly say, oh, you want to continue this or I'm out. So to give yourself that time is helpful, and it really will show you your resilience and gives you time to really see, oh, this is what I like, or no, I've given myself time. I've given myself time to adjust. I've given myself time to meet people. I've given myself time to integrate, and I do or don't want to stay here. What else about being based in London? What I loved about being based in London, number one, being based in London is magical just because I love that airport. Heathrow, entering into that airport is almost like, to me, JFK is one of those really notable airports where you just hear it and it brings about a feeling. Being based in New York, it's to me one of the most New York things you can ever do, because going back and forth to JFK or to LaGuardia, you have integrated into New York society in every way imaginable, both good and bad. Let me put on a little contour. I liked the restaurants in Heathrow. I liked, because when I was there for a new terminal was being built for the company. So we were in the old terminal and then we transferred to the new terminal. So that was really nice to have that experience of going from the old terminal to the new terminal. It is this beautiful big terminal and how people dress, and it has the shops. Heathrow has everything from Chopard to Hermes to every designer you can think of. So that shows up in the crowds. You're not going to see that if you're based in Cincinnati or somewhere. And this is never any shade. It's just a observation. Things might have changed slightly now, but at the time, Christmas, forget, with holidays in the US, there's usually something running. That's not the same for most of Europe. Most of Europe is still quite traditional, meaning holidays mean that everything is closed. And in some of the smaller places, everything may be closed for the entire week. Germany is still that way, where things are closed that week of Christmas. France, and especially if you're in the smaller cities, do not expect anything to be open. Now, I share this because that included at the time train and public transport and even taxis. So if the tube wasn't running, buses aren't running, cabs would do what would be called now dynamic pricing. So your cab ride, which might have been 30 or 40 pounds, may be 120 because, well, they can. And this is especially for mini cabs. Now, again, this is prior to Uber. Uber came about while I was in London, but it wasn't an established thing. So as a reserve, you never wanted to come in or leave on Christmas because you knew that cost was going to scare you. Oh, geez, I'm going to have to spend 150 pounds on a cab. It may be slightly different now because, again, there's Uber and ways like this, but it's still just a difference. What else? Flight attendants were, everywhere you go, it's still the same job. So I don't think the flight attendants were drastically different. I have to wash off all my contour doing that because I don't really pile that much on. There was a difference with coffee and tea. I remember that because American-based flight attendants will use the same coffee pots to make tea. And I did that once. Bean-based, I feel like I have, there we go. We had the big tea packets. So instead of making tea with like 8 packets of tea, we were catered with big tea packets where flight attendants would flush out one of the coffee makers. They would run it through with no coffee or tea to ensure there would be no coffee taste. And they would mark that one coffee maker just for tea. And I was new and I thought, oh, I'll make some tea now right after coffee. And one of the flight attendants was like, are you making tea right after coffee? You can't mix the two. I said, oh. So there is a bit of a difference of the quality, especially with service-wise. I'm kind of going to bake. I love, oh, let me bend this. Because I love my Laura Mercier powder. So I do bake because where I am, it's nice and sunny. And so while I'm out, I do like a nice set finish, but I like to see my skin as well. So as you saw, I didn't even put on any foundation. I'm actually just going to pat my whole face with powder because I am a lover of loose powder and Laura Mercier has always been my favorite. Sometimes I also think that loose powder almost mimics a foundation finish. What else am I gonna do? I do fill in my brows just a little. It's concentration. And as someone told me yesterday, brows are cousins, not sisters. Where's my brow wand? Right here. I don't really want to put on too much more. I will put on, let's see. I love this shimmer because I love a shimmer on the eye. That's from my blush. You can't really see it. Can you see? You can't. I will always throw on a beautiful neutral. This is another MAC. And I actually put it all over my eye. See, it's just a nice neutral. It almost mimics the loose powder, what the loose powder does. Then I love to go in with that shimmer. We always love a shimmer. What is this one? Oh, I do have this orange. Another secret, I like to use the wet sponge. And I do just tap it, especially under my eyes, because to me that really, this is even before me setting it. It keeps it from looking cakey. As much as I love makeup, I love looking like I don't have much on. Or I just like my makeup to look well done. So the next thing was the shimmer right in the corner. So I have 2. This orange I like because when you put it on, it almost looks golden. I'm going to put another shimmer on, but let's do a beautiful brown. I have this bronzer from Lancome, and I love the packaging. This I sometimes use as a nice brown shadow because anything that's powder can be used anywhere. A blush can be used as a shadow can be used as a blush, a shadow can be used as a contour, a shadow can be used as a lip color. You can just make them all work. But I bought this palette because I love that brown. I love this brown too. I love these shimmers. So this has been my go-to. So I started on the corner, and then I do this, blend up and out for a nice accentuated, because I have some beautiful almond shaped eyes. So again, I purposely tap here, then I bring it. So we trust process. Two things. Then a little bit of transition brown. Go over that shimmer right into that other brown. Same with the other side. So it's coming together, but now it's a lot of blending up and out. My favorite to do is to use my highlighting crayon on my brow bone, which I just saw it. So I will take right underneath. Everyone likes a nice brighter under eye, and that brings the entire eye together. Lastly, my favorite, I'm gonna pin it. I love this Makeup by Mario eye pencil. It is the perfect brown because I do love a brown shadow. Before I do that brown shadow, I take that same brown that I use, which is here. Okay. And this will all get cleaned up at the end. But with my liner, I don't do the whole eye. I just do the outer corner, and I will clean it up. Then I go in. I have, hold on. So with the eyeliner, I actually do this. So I see one is a little bit heavier on one side than the other. So I will add a little. Now it looks like I've just started with the liner wars, where you add a little, you correct, and then you have to add more. And that is okay. The best thing about this liner, brush on the other side. All right, and then to clean it up underneath, I take my concealer and I have a brush. I do this. Inside looks a little bit, I'll fix it. It is good enough. So now I'm going to curl my lashes. Mascara, more blush, setting powder, lips. Done. Once it starts taking way too much time, I just get to a point where I don't care to do it. But I do this. Before I put on my mascara, I actually run a clean brush through all of my shadow to blend it all together. So it's just done. That is done. Let's put on some mascara. Do you see that little... Sometimes I use mascara if it gets on my lid as a shadow. It's just what you have to deal with when you have really long lashes, which I do. That's it. I love my NARS Orgasm Blush. I also have this palette, which I always mix my blushes. I love a pale pink, so I do like to layer. I already have cream blushes on, so then I just go to painting over that. Always up directly under that liner. I love this color because it's almost orgasm-like. It's always going up towards this. Then always this. And then I will pen. My butter gloss, my NYX butter gloss, will be paired with a liner and a lipstick. I go in with a Q-tip, and I do like to use one of these liquid blushes because I am going to use this butter gloss with this shimmer. But I think with this liquid blush, which is a really pale pink, it'll look very cool on the lips with the liner and then this over it. So it's this type of color. If there's any harsh lines, I take a clean brush, just go over it like that. So I use this. Now I'm going to go over that with the butter gloss. Yep, with the butter gloss, clean up anything. Also, add some shimmer. My favorite is to put shimmer in the corner of my eye. So I have this to add some sheen and shimmer on the skin. We always love a shimmer. And underneath the eye. And that is the look. The last part is to use, again, the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, which is the absolute best. I have some here in the top. I put it throughout the brush. I put it on my brow, underneath, to set everything, even on my shadow. When you have this, always turn it to make sure the top is on, because if you drop it and it goes everywhere, you'll be out of powder. Time to set. I usually have a little fan or something. Now that is the final look. Where is, let's see if I have something where I can fan myself. I have an empty of my passport. That was my final look. Now I'm gonna do my hair, not on camera. That's my final look. I hope I help you out while you watch me look pretty. I'm about transferring to London, so I will be back tomorrow. Another Get Ready With Me. And we can talk about beauty and flying. And I don't really actually need to do too much to my hair. I will be off with my day. And I love that you joined me. So I am out of here. Thank you. Bye.